Unbelievable with their plaster rules on the back end when Sam left the pocket.
Vikings had 12 goal-to-go attempts, got 3 points. Meanwhile, the other way.
And there's the difference. Minnesota this time in the red zone blitzes, Jared Goff and Jahmyr Gibbs had the answer on the angle route.
Gibbs had the answers all night long.
Great job of capturing the edge with the tight ends. Gibbs patient, and then bounces it. And that's really what they got into the second half, trying to salt this game away. There it is, dip in, bounce out for another outside zone, and Jahmyr Gibbs was the star of the second half.
How about 23 carries for 139 yards and 4 total touchdowns for Jahmyr Gibbs. Here's the 4th of those. This one put an end to it. Jared Goff had a quiet night. Jahmyr Gibbs was awfully loud. Sam Darnold really struggled. 18 of 41. To the victors go the spoils. The Lions are the 1 seed. Give me the coach in the locker room.
You guys look like you remember who the you are. Yeah, that was awesome. That's a hell of a win, guys. All I can think about is, man, we've been forged in this stuff now. This has been 3 years in the making. Some of it 4. Like, that just doesn't happen. You got to work through it, grind through it, and go through the downs to get to the ups of where we're at. What we've done is not easy. It's not easy. But I'm telling you what, man, we've said it all along. We got a special group, man. And this has been coming a long time. That's a lot of hard work. And we are the number 1 seed with a bye, gentlemen.
Yeah. And so there we go. The stage set, the playoff field done. The Lions and Chiefs get the byes. Here are the matchups next weekend. We start at Saturday. You see the games. Let me tell you, there are 2 road favorites coming into these games. Minnesota is a road favorite. The Chargers are a road favorite. There are 2 huge spreads next weekend. The Ravens and Bills are both enormous favorites. The Vikings you see falling down to 5. They will play at the Rams next Monday night on ESPN. So the stage is set for Wild Card Weekend. D-Wood, let's start with what we saw last night. What's your number 1 takeaway from what the Lions did?
If the Lions play like that, particularly on defense, the Lions are going to be in New Orleans representing the NFC in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
The Lions were absolutely, let me tell you this, Aaron Glenn was in his bag last night defensively. The way he mixed up coverages, the way he brought pressure, made Sam Darnold speed up. Because Sam Darnold has had an absolutely tremendous year. But Sam Darnold was uncomfortable all night long. And here's what really impressed me the most in the red zone. The money zone, as we like to call it. Okay, Himbo always throws out great things. This Detroit Lions defense, they only gave up 6 points on 4 drives in the red zone. You want to talk about you want to win a championship? Then you hold down teams when it matters the most in the red zone. Aaron Glenn put his resume on display last night.
How did he do it, Rex? You were talking all morning yesterday, Sunday NFL Countdown, about they need to be more aggressive, they need to be more multiple. What did they do defensively that won them this game?
Everything. And that's what was so beautiful about it. Why wasn't it a clear picture? Why? Because it was ever changing. Sometimes, he rushed 0 where you have no safety, straight man coverage, way more than they've done at any point this year, probably 10 times. Then he kept.
I've got that number for you.
Oh, yeah.
13.
13 times. Then he kept mixing in different coverages, loaded zones, even simulated pressures, the whole kit and caboodle. It changed him. He wasn't comfortable back there. No quarterback is. Here's the difference with him. All right? They went to win the game instead of not lose it. Aaron Glenn's like, no, we're going out attacking and trying to win the game ourselves defensively.
It's interesting because you've been somewhat critical of the Lions defense and their coach in particular, Aaron Glenn, because through the injuries, which everyone understands have decimated their defense, for not doing exactly that. Last night in the biggest game of the year, they did what you've been waiting for them to do.
Absolutely did. And what happens sometimes, it's all about getting the win. Okay, so Aaron knows that, hey, this offense can't be stopped. So he kind of played defensively that way. But they needed that defense to step up, and he did it. Look, Aaron Glenn will be a head coach in this league next year, I believe. And he's earned it. He's done a hell of a job. And to me, this was great because when I saw it, I knew he had it, had it in his bag and all that, and he unleashed it.
Well, I would say this. There's a lot of great coaches in the NFL. You can give Dan Campbell Coach of the Year now after last night, and you can give Brad Holmes Executive of the Year, their general manager. The reality is this. Detroit chose violence. Minnesota did not. That's the story of the game. It was the best game plan, no question, that I've watched against Minnesota's offense, and Aaron Glenn was phenomenal in that. The different coverages that we talked about, the braiding of their defensive line, the way that they got off gaps, the way they handled Jefferson and Addison was unbelievable. They would double Jefferson high-low and double Addison in and out. So watch the bottom of the screen, that's Jefferson. What you're going to get is a low corner, high corner, safety. So they're doubling high-low, and then they double Addison at the top, in and out. So there's nowhere to throw the football. And then there's that defensive line braiding pressure, where I mean is they would get these stunts and twists where you're going to watch this defensive end go inside and defensive tackle go outside. The coverage drops off. This is just the basic coverage, but the chaos that creates from the front side, nobody open. Sam Darnold goes into panic mode running away. They dominated Minnesota's defensive front. Wood, you talked about some of these red zone coverages. Couple things. Number one, they play zone defense where they pass things off. Watch the motion go and watch the point by Robertson. Okay, they pass it off. The back looks like he's going to be wide open in the flat, but since he allowed that motion to go up top, he's there to go make the tackle, even though it's man coverage. And then they would play man coverage on the outside, zone coverage on the inside. Everybody's playing man strapping their guy, but they got two guys in the middle of the red zone watching the quarterback's eyes. Nobody's open. And so that zone defense internally, but man defense externally allows nobody to get open. And then the rush and coverage are tied together. That's how they got it done. Rex, you talked about it. These are my notes from the game, okay? Number one, they were great getting off blocks in the run game. We got to give them credit in that. The defensive line just constantly created chaos with all these stunts and pressures. They brought zero blitz 13 times. You know the stones you got to do to do it
with
against
Justin Jefferson on the
with Jefferson. That's unbelievable. And just the way that they played those double coverages. That's just one clip. They did it 4 or 5 times where it was a strategic double where Jefferson high-low, Addison in and out, and Brian Branch and Alex Anzalone handled Hawkinson really well. It was a phenomenal
and the back. So that's the thing. So in that coverage, we call it, people call it cover 7 or whatever, combo coverage. Basically, the reason you go high and low against Justin Jefferson is so you don't allow him free release.
Okay.
All right. And then you protect yourself vertically with the safety on top.
Yeah.
All right. So you got Meek Robertson did an amazing job.
Yep.
Physical little corner, but he's getting his hands on him at the top. All right. Then you're protected deep with the safety. The other thing you showed was Addison. Why did they run a cut coverage on Addison? Well, the reason you run a cut coverage, you're not worried about the guy beating you on top. Okay, so now it's all intermediate routes, and that's what you took away from Sam Darnold. Addison doesn't run as well as some of these other receivers. So to me, great plan. The red zone plan, though, what you're showing down here was spectacular.
It was awesome because they were playing
mix of coverage.
Yeah, they didn't blitz as much in the red zone as I thought. You know, like the takeaway is in the field, they played a lot of man coverage, me versus you.
Right.
Down in the red zone in that area, they played a lot of like zone, but passed things off and communicated where they carried coverage when a guy got to them almost.
All right, so let's go all the way back to the beginning of the conversation. The Lions now get home field advantage. They get the only bye. I feel like we've spent a lot of the last month or so talking about how good the Eagles are, talking about how good and hot the Vikings are. D. Wood just said it. Are the Lions right now the team to beat in the NFC, yes or no?
Absolutely. And what happens, they're starting to get their pieces back. And I said it yesterday, right? It was a must-win for Detroit.
Yes, you did.
Why? They had their bye was week 5. There's no way in hell they would have gone through, kept playing like that. They would have been, I mean, there's no chance. They'd be limping. There's no way. They had to get this bye. Now, all of a sudden, you're going to get more players back. And guess what? They're going to be fresh. They've been the best team in the National Football League. Don't let them get their players back because it is a slam dunk checkmate over.
Lions team to beat right now, yes or no, Dan?
Since they got the 1 seed, I lean Detroit. You know, Philadelphia has been the team for me for a long time. But watching that team play that way at that place last night, it's hard for me to imagine someone going in there, as long as they can trend to health, going in there and beating that team. That place looked like an absolute zoo last night when it comes to just the energy and the juice and the emotion. I think it's going to be hard for someone to go into Detroit and play well enough to win.
That despite the Vikings ownership spending $2 million on tickets so their people could be around the Vikings bench, and you predicted that wouldn't go well. I'll finish it where we began it again. You right now, Philly going in there, the Vikings or Rams, the way this thing would set up, the winner of the Vikings and Rams would be the next one to go in there. That would mean no huge upsets taking place in other places. You like Detroit right now to go to the Super Bowl.
I love Detroit to represent the NFC. Again, did y'all watch that environment last night?
Oh, yeah, that place looked like an unbelievable environment.
All right, so that was the last game of the regular season, but there were a lot of things that got settled yesterday. Let's wrap them all up. Week 18. Dan, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers won the NFC South. What impressed you the most yesterday about them?
Number one, what they did for Mike Evans at the end of that football game. 5 yards away from 11 straight seasons of 1,000 yards, and also that big money bonus. They didn't have to do this. The game was already over. Credit to that organization for doing the right thing for their kind of trademark player. Also, Baker Mayfield willed this team to that win yesterday. The way that he made clutch plays with his legs when they were not playing well to find a way to win. Shout out to Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Rex, the Chargers wind up the 5 seed. They're going to Houston. What's your reaction?
Yeah, I mean, I never realized the Chargers got a bye, that they qualified for a bye, but they did because they're playing Houston. This team right here, number 1 in the National Football League in scoring defense. And by the way, Quentin Johnson, he actually can catch the ball.
He was unreal.
He had 13 catches. Remember, this is the kid that couldn't catch a cold. Like, all of a sudden, now he's catching the ball. They're moving it. They can pound you with the run game. They also realize they have a Hall of Fame quarterback type ability. They're going to be
They're a 3-point road favorite. D. Wood, Broncos get the last spot. Did they make a statement yesterday?
Greeny, I'm telling you now, if I'm the Bills, I hate the draw that I got. I hate the draw that I got with the Denver Broncos. They played great defense. They got a great head coach, a young quarterback who's athletic and accurate. I'm telling you, like Buffalo, to me, that's the most intriguing game coming up this next weekend.
That's an interesting perspective. But it was, I assume none of you have seen it because you guys don't do this. But at ESPN Bet, anyone want to guess what the spread is on this game? Denver at Buffalo? Anyone?
Buffalo by
probably
13?
No way.
Okay, well, now you greatly overstated. We spent We spent our entire meeting this morning talking about how this is a scary game for Buffalo and the Broncos. The Bills are a 9-point favorite. That is a significant favorite in the postseason. But you were agreeing with D. Wood. You think this is a tough draw for Josh Allen in round 1?
Absolutely, because of Patrick Surtain. He is a guy that is very much so in the running for Defensive Player of the Year. And he's a guy, when you watch Denver's defense play, they go kind of like the guy sitting to my left used to do with a player named Darrelle Revis and say, you got him, you're going to shut down half of the field. And that's really scary against Buffalo because one of the things that Buffalo loves to do is get into 4-by-1 formations and kind of out-leverage things to the field. You're not going to have that as much because of Surtain. The second thing is this. You guys remember 2 years ago or in 22 when the Eagles went to the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Their defense was dominant because of what? What did they do?
Pass rush.
Okay, they had 70 sacks. You know what team has had the second most sacks since that moment?
Is Denver this
63 this year.
Yeah.
They got dudes who rush the quarterback. And my concern with Buffalo offensively all year has been if you get a team that can play lockdown man defense, which Denver can do, and get after you, it just gives you a little reservation, and that's a tough draw. I completely agree for Buffalo.
Well, you know, it's funny. You bring up a great point that Buffalo loves to live in those 4-by-1. 4 receivers on one side, one guy on the other. Well, you know darn well that Surtain's going to be by himself on a single side.
No matter who it is.
Go ahead and throw it to him if you want. Good luck, because you're right. That's what we used to do with Darrelle Revis. And then what happens, fans, you got to understand is they're going to run loaded zones away. And so they're going to put 2 more bodies over there in zone coverage. So you'll have 4 there. They're going to have 6.
So what he means is
cover.
A lot of times Buffalo creates a numbers advantage for them, offensively opposite, and they won't have that because of the way Denver can play.
Are the Bills in trouble? The question the people watching this TV show are asking right now is, D. Wood just said this is a tough draw for Josh Allen, this is supposed to be his year. I think he's going to win MVP. He's got this game coming into his building. He's facing a rookie quarterback. Are you telling me this is a tough game for the Bills?
I absolutely think it's a tough draw. And the 9 points, I'm shocked by it. All right. Now, the one thing that I don't think people realize is Josh Allen has the greatest TD to interception ratio in playoff history. That's right. The guy that you guys think I'm always on or whatever, that's right.
Is that good?
All right, he's had 21 touchdowns against 4 interceptions. So to me, that's why the spread is what it is. I'm not buying it. I would take Denver. I think the game's going to be a hell of a lot closer than that.
He would.
Greeny, listen, defensively, they're going to cause Buffalo problems. They can cover, they can rush. The quarterback is athletic. His quarterback is athletic and accurate, and they got a head coach.
I feel like I need to say one thing. Can I just say one thing? They played no one yesterday, all right? Denver played literally no one. Kansas City just would have forfeited that game had they been allowed to. The previous 2 weeks, they gave up 68 points, I think, to Cincinnati and the Chargers. The Chargers are not exactly the greatest show on turf.
Okay, but that Chargers game, Riley Moss doesn't play. When Riley Moss doesn't play, they play a lot less man. They're not as good in zone as they are man. Anybody that plays against the Bengals is going to get points scored on them more often than not. So I get your point. I'm just telling you, like, not only is Surtain defensive player of the candidate, but Tino's a defensive player of the year candidate as well.
The other side has the MVP. So that's where I think it's going to go. It's either going to be Josh Allen, who I would vote for, or Lamar Jackson, who a lot of other people are going to vote for. And now let's talk about him. The update that I have on Zay Flowers, what I'm told, for those of you who didn't see it Saturday, Zay Flowers goes down holding the knee. I'm told he has a chance to play next weekend for whatever that is worth. I don't think this is a good draw. I know people think that the Steelers are terrible and one and done and all that kind of stuff, and maybe against anyone else they are. But I do not think the Steelers are a good draw for the Ravens. They always give Lamar Jackson a hard time.
Yeah, I think if there's one team that the Steelers match up well against in these playoffs, it's actually Baltimore.
Yeah.
And I think Baltimore is the best team in the AFC. All right. But Pittsburgh, yes. Why? I think T.J. Watt is an absolute handful against them. They know how to keep Lamar contained. But this is all about Derrick Henry. And Dano, I know, is going to talk about that.
Yeah. I mean, so we did the game this past weekend, so we were with them. Everybody to a man could not talk about Derrick Henry enough. And the conversation or the question that I asked Coach Harbaugh, Todd Monken, their offensive coordinator, Derrick, Lamar, all their players, how is it different this year? How are you better equipped this year? Everyone says Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry, why? Because we could be predictable and it doesn't matter. It won't matter. They could put Patrick Ricard on the field, Mark Andrews, and here comes the run. Stop it. And you can't. You can't. They got 6 guys that are 300-pounders on the field, and they hand it to a 260-pound back. And the reality is, the one thing that this offense has done in the past at times is gotten too cute. And they don't have to fear that anymore. They know. And Todd Monken, their offensive coordinator, says it. I know that sometimes I put people out there and it's like, well, here comes the run. And part of me goes, so what that they know it's going to run? You got to stop it.
Is Henry the difference this year? The Ravens have been knocking on that door. Is Henry the difference?
He absolutely is the difference because what did we talk about last year with Baltimore? They got cute. They got away from the run game. When you got a Hall of Fame back, there's no forgetting about the run.
I'm envisioning like the offensive coordinator standing in his shadow during the game. Like, what's that blocking out the sun behind me? Oh, maybe I should give the ball to my running back. Okay, we're just getting started on a Monday. Coming up, go Pack Go or fly Eagles fly. Can Green Bay pull off the upset in Philly? It's an extraordinary wild card week matchup, and we have a major injury update to bring you on that game as well. Plus, the coaches. Will Jerry Jones bring Mike Mack back? Could McCarthy want out himself? Shefty will join us live with the latest on all the coaching situations. Don't move. It's Get Up on ESPN.
Oh, this is unbelievable. Just 19 bats in the air, and Vele finds a way to catch it. I'm going to be honest with you. I had higher hopes for Carson Wentz yesterday. I really thought he was going to do me a solid and get Cincy in, but this play, along with some other elements, kept him out.
Wild day in a game in which the Chiefs didn't need to play, and they most certainly didn't. All right, coming up, I am told that Shefty has breaking news for us. Ooh. So we will find out what it is together next. Shefty has breaking coaching news. It's coming up next here on ESPN.
Jacksonville Jaguars have fired Doug Peterson. He becomes the second coach within 24 hours to be let go, joining Gerard Mayo, who the Patriots fired last night. So it's Peterson this morning, Mayo last night, and the Jacksonville Jaguars are retaining their general manager, Trent Baalke. And Shad Khan, Baalke, and others will work to hire a new head coach who will take over a team that now has the 5th overall pick in the draft, that has over $40 million in salary cap space, that has a new stadium coming to the city, that plays in a division that has not exactly been strong in recent seasons. And so there are absolutely attractive elements to this job. But the Jaguars made the decision after 3 seasons to move on from Doug Peterson. That team lost 18 of its last 23 games. Everybody thought this was coming, and it actually unfolds and happens this morning.
Taking you through the Patriots decision then, people saw it yesterday. This one comes as no surprise at all, obviously, Doug Peterson. Gerard Mayo came as a bit of a surprise, although anyone watching Sunday NFL Countdown yesterday would have seen you suggest that you expected it to happen. Take us through what we know about the decision in New England.
Listen, I think this was something that over time went the opposite way that the Patriots had hoped. Like, they hired Gerard Mayo with the idea that he was going to be there for years to come. The deal was in the makings for years to come for him to be the head coach. And over the last month or so, there have been public gaffes. There have been deteriorating play. There have been anger and apathy from the fans. There have been bad feelings from within the building. A lot of nervous people, a lot of uneasy people. There are a whole host of factors that took this in a direction that other people didn't expect, frankly. And ultimately, it led to his dismissal after the game. I think people thought, well, are they firing Gerard Mayo because he lost the number 1 pick? No, that's not what they're doing. This was something that I think had been building within the organization, and now they're going in a different direction. And I think it's a move that they felt like they had to make. It's a move that people didn't think they would make. Gerard Mayo obviously was somebody that the family believed in very strongly, the Crafts did, but ultimately the body of work over the last month, excluding the game yesterday where they won a game that you wouldn't want to win, was not what the team had hoped, and they decided that a change was best for the future of this organization.
Hey, Shefty, I see you glancing down at your phone. I know this is a day you don't love. I know it's a day that our old friend Chris Mortensen didn't like because we're seeing all these people losing jobs. It's a lot more than just football here, but the reality is this is the business that these guys have chosen, and this is the reality of that business. So what other situations are you keeping a very close eye on today?
Listen, last night, Greeny, we heard that the Indianapolis Colts came out and they said they're keeping their head coach Shane Steichen, their general manager Chris Ballard. The Miami Dolphins came out and said they're keeping their head coach Mike McDaniel and they're keeping Chris. I don't remember teams coming out right after games and making announcements that they're keeping their head coaches and general managers. But I guess in the day and age that we live in, this is the world where we're operating, where people are wondering whether moves are going to be made. Obviously, there are still some other situations that are hanging out there right now. We have situations with the New York Giants, with the Las Vegas Raiders, with the Tennessee Titans. There could be movement in any place, but these conversations are ongoing, and I think that there's not the urgency for some of these resolutions right away. I agree. I'm going to take this call, okay?
Okay, yes, by
I'll
all
be back
means.
in touch with you.
Adam Schefter has taken a call. There are no better words in television than Shefty saying, I'm going to take this call. So everyone stay with us because he will let us know what that call was, and we all understand what it could be. Let's react quickly here to a couple of these. Let's start with the Patriots. You know, I think very quietly, and I mean that because I haven't heard anyone been talking about this all year long. That could be about as attractive an opening as you could possibly imagine.
It is.
Let me put the question to you this way. They have $130 million in cap space. They have the 4th pick in the draft. And if you could choose right now, if you're a coach, and you could choose between coaching Drake May or Caleb Williams, which one are you choosing?
I would take Drake.
Wait, I'm told to go back to Shefty right now. Hold that thought. Shefty, I'm coming right back to you live. Shefty, what was the call?
The New York Giants are keeping their head coach, Brian Daboll, and their general manager, Joe Shane. John Mara just came out with the news that he will be keeping them. And we talked about it on the show yesterday, Green. I think a lot of people speculating that Brian Daboll would be out, Joe Shane could be out, but they are keeping both individuals and moving forward with both members of the organization. And they're going to trust that those men are the right men to do the job. And John Mara felt it was necessary to make this statement, and I'll read it to you. Joe Shane and Brian Daboll will continue in their respective roles with the organization. As disappointing as the results of the season have been, Steve Tisch and I remain confident in the process that Joe and Brian have implemented in their vision for our team. We look forward to the future and achieving the results we all desire. And so, again, we said this on the show yesterday, Daboll will be safe. Shane will be safe. John Mara makes it official this morning. I know that's not the news that a lot of Giants fans wanted, but John Mara advertised his intentions all throughout the season, that this was what he wanted to do. He does not want to be one of those teams that's changing head coaches and general managers all along. And so ultimately, in the end, he's keeping both of these individuals. And you're seeing these teams now exercise some patience at a time where there's been very little of that in the past in the NFL. So we continue to cross off these teams. Again, speculation that something could happen in Indy. No. Speculation something could happen with the Giants. No. And now there are a couple more situations to continue to monitor out there right now.
Yeah, you told us yesterday. So far, Shefty, everything you told us on Sunday NFL Countdown has been exactly right. This is not going to be popular with people who buy planes and fly them over football games in New York, but we'll keep close eye on all of these. One more that so many fans are interested in. Shefty, do I still have Shefty just for one more quick question from him? And then, by all means, Adam, keep answering the phone. But the one in Dallas is the one that a lot of people obviously will have an eye on. They lose yesterday. What is your sense of what we should be expecting there?
Well, Greeny, let me say this. I'm not expecting a phone call in the next course of this answer to get an answer in Dallas right now. I think this one's going to play out a little bit slower than some of these others. I think Jerry Jones and Mike McCarthy are going to engage in some conversations. And I think the feeling around the league has been, as we said on Sunday Countdown, leaning safe, but it could go any way. The fact of the matter is, I think Jerry Jones would like to bring back Mike McCarthy. I think he'd like to be back. I'm not sure that everybody is on board with bringing back Mike McCarthy, and I think that they'd like to review their options just as Mike McCarthy could have options. So there obviously are a lot of conversations that have to take place, and that's a situation that still has to unfold and be processed. And we don't know exactly how it's going to come out. I can tell you the feeling is that McCarthy is probably a little bit more likely to be back, but if he weren't, nobody would be surprised. And so this was a conversation that occurred at the end of last season when everybody wondered whether Jerry would bring back Mike McCarthy with just 1 year left in his contract, and most people thought he might be gone, and he wasn't. He kept him after that playoff loss to the Green Bay Packers. Now, everybody's waiting to see what comes out of these conversations again a year later. That really could go any which way. We'll see what happens with them in the end. But I don't think we're going to get quick resolution here the way we have in New England, Indianapolis, Miami, the New York Giants, and Jacksonville.
All right, outstanding. Shefty, as always, the best in the business. Stay close by. Keep answering the phone. We'll keep bringing you back in every time that the events warrant. Let me go back to where we were a moment ago. Let's go back to the openings here. So now that we know the Giants are keeping their leadership in place, which does surprise me a little, but not enormously. I was asking you a question a minute ago that I think a lot of fans are interested in. New England is open. Chicago is open. New England has Drake May. Chicago has Caleb Williams. Both of them have a lot of attractive things about them. If you were the belle of the ball, who would you choose?
I would choose New England because of Drake May. I think the young man's got a chance to be an absolute superstar. I think he's got the chance to be Josh Allen. They've got the number 4 pick. They've got $130 million in salary cap space. I can go get T. Higgins and draft Emeka Egbuka from Ohio State, and all of a sudden we got a really good, promising football team. I could draft Will Campbell from LSU and protect them. So I think that this is the place that is going to be, for an offensive-minded head coach, if you are one, a Ben Johnson, I think that's the place that you desire to go to.
Well, I think when you're just looking, that way, I don't think it's a good spot. The Jets would be good for anybody. Other than somebody else, forget it, but like a Ben Johnson or whatever. But in all seriousness, you got Jacksonville with a franchise quarterback. You got potential franchise quarterback in New England and potential franchise quarterback in Chicago. The kid is going to be a franchise quarterback. Sure. So there's plenty of options out there. Look, every single job could be a great spot. All right. Every single one of these things. There's only 32 of them. Mm-hmm. All right. And it's what you make it when you get in there. And I think that's the big thing. And so to me, look, it's just like Mike McCarthy. Is he going to, would he stay? Is he going to? Hell yeah, he's going to stay. If they offer him to stay, he ain't looking for anything else.
The only reason I brought that up with you yesterday, Rex yelled at me like crazy when I suggested that Jerry could offer to keep McCarthy and he might not take it, is because maybe someone else would want him, like New Orleans. He coached in New Orleans a really long time. Maybe he wants to get out from.
You would much rather have Dallas than New Orleans.
You would rather have Dallas than New Orleans, is what you're saying. I mean, there's a lot of, there's a lot of nonsense that comes with being the coach of the Cowboys, and he might not love all of that. D-Wood, let me come over to you quickly on all of this. How about the Giants keeping Brian Daboll and Joe Shane? Again, this is for those who've not been following it. There are people flying planes over their games, begging them not to, wearing bags over their heads. This will not be popular as I walk the streets of New York today. What is your reaction to it?
I kind of had a reaction the same as we talked, before the show, talked about Jim Irsay. Jim Irsay, not a popular decision. Maybe it's not a popular decision with some of the fan base and keeping those guys. But, to have conviction behind your decision, I can appreciate that. But let me speak a little deeper about the Giants. When I watch the Giants, they have no identity. And what I mean by that is, when you think of the New York Football Giants, what do you think of? You think of defense. You think of guys who can capture the line of scrimmage, playing tough, hard-nosed football. When was the last time we ever seen the Giants play anything remotely close to that? Yeah. That's what, if I'm John Mara and Mr. Tisch, that's got to be the mandate moving forward. We got to get back to playing New York Giant football with that identity.
To me, candidly, I'm not here to fire anybody. To me, what I would have taken into account is how badly they misread the situation with Saquon Barkley.
No
completely misunderstood the importance of what they were doing and why they were doing it, and then the way they handled the Daniel Jones thing this year, which I think was equally demonstrated an equal lack of understanding of how it was going to alienate the people, the most important people, which are the 53 guys that have to run out onto the field. Let me break quickly on that. As these stories continue to develop, we'll keep bringing Shefty in. In the meantime, we'll go back to yesterday's action. It's not just the coaches who might be done. We got Aaron Rodgers talking about his future. We got Tyreek Hill talking about his future. Don't miss them. Next.
So this is pickleball?
Oh,
These guys are intense. With E-Trade from Morgan Stanley, we're ready for whatever gets served up.
Dude, you gotta work on your trash talk.
I'd rather work on saving for retirement. Or college, since you like to get schooled. That's a pretty good burn, right?
Guys. Still working, eh? Take tomorrow off. Keys.
Dad, are you certain this is gonna work?
Nothing to it.
Are you for imprint certain?
Certainty matters, like the certainty of 4imprint, your home for high-quality promotional gear, including exclusive items and brands they love. Printed perfectly and guaranteed to arrive on time. To wow your clients, nail your next event, or inspire your team, check out 4imprint.com.
4imprint, for certain.
This is the carry-on closet, the suitcase with a one-of-a-kind closet system that keeps you organized anywhere. Pack all you need for up to 10 days and travel without ever unpacking. The comfort of home on the go. Unpack in seconds at soulguard.co.
What's going on? Cameras off. All live cams off.
What's going on here?
They just took us off the air.
Get out of my studio.
Turn the cameras back on.
Everyone is raving about September 5.
There's a hostage situation in the Olympic Village.
It's masterful and heart-pounding.
People are going to want to see it.
Don't miss one of the best movies of the year.
We can't make one mistake.
September 5, rated R.
Instantly, DraftKings, you make the playoffs even more exciting. Legendary NFL coach Jim Moore. What do you think?
You kidding me? Instantly? Even if I don't win a playoff game?
Yes, Jim. Even if you don't win a playoff game. Playoffs?
Playoffs?
Instantly? Instantly. Are you kidding me? Who's calling these press conferences?
New DraftKings customers get in on the NFL playoff action and turn a $5 bet into $200 instantly in bonus bets. The crown is yours.
And here we go. Your consumer cellular tower.
I didn't know they built towers.
They don't. Consumer cellular uses the same towers as big wireless, but then passes the savings on to you.
So I get the same fast nationwide coverage if I switch?
Yep. Save your money for something else. Speaking of, I ordered us some Thai food. Thank you. Oh, shoot.
I'll go get it.
Pretty high up here, isn't it? For unlimited talk and text with reliable coverage and your second month free, call Consumer Cellular.
The bold Louisiana flavor and crispy crunch of Popeye's signature chicken is the meal your craving deserves. And now you can get 3 pieces for just $5 and make it a meal for only $3 more.
Love that chicken from Popeyes.
Safe Flight Repair, Safe Flight Replace.
Nobody likes a cracked windshield. But at least you can go to SafeFlight.com and schedule a fix in minutes. Go to SafeFlight.com and schedule a replacement today.
Let's sound off from Sunday. So the Dolphins missed the playoffs, but there's a bunch of drama. Tyreek Hill had 2 catches and then took himself out of the game during the team's final 2 possessions. He had the worst season of his Dolphins tenure, and in the locker room afterwards, he said this.
I'm out, bro. So it was great playing here, but at the end of the day, bro, I got to do what's best for for my career and what's best, because I'm too much of a competitor to be just.
Does that mean
just out there?
Mean you thinking about leaving here?
If it is, hey, it gets.
Okay, so there's that. What do we make of that?
Well, I think first off, by the end of the season, things like this happen. You got to let it de-escalate a little bit. He shouldn't have said what he said, obviously. Take about 2 weeks, and then you can, you'll see it probably a little different. But right there, it's pretty obvious he was upset that he never made the playoffs and things. And how ironic is it, Dano, that,
Well, you can't leave the winner for money and then complain when you don't win.
Amen.
I love Tyreek. Obviously, he's an unbelievable player. But you left Kansas City because you wanted more money. Kansas City tried to keep you. They offered you money. And you left because you wanted the money and go to live in Miami, rightfully so. But then you can't complain that you're not winning as much as you did in Kansas City. And so they're 1 game away from getting to the playoffs this year. Last year, the injuries. That's the big thing that Tyreek and Miami need to figure out with Tua is how do they keep Tua healthy enough to actually get into the playoffs. Last year, they make it when he was healthy. This year, they don't make it. They miss it by a game when he's not healthy. But you can't choose to leave the all-time winner and then, complain about it, that you're not doing just that in Miami.
D. Wood, the face?
I got to say, listen, first of all, we always ask our athletes to be honest. I appreciate his honesty. But I agree, it's literally 10 minutes after the game.
Yeah.
10 minutes. Your emotions
after the
season is over. Your emotions at an all-time high. Go on vacation. Decompress. If you feeling that way at that time, then so be it. But to say that with the guys you just played with in the locker room, to me, it's disrespectful.
That being said, if I was the New England Patriots, I'd be like, so how real is this? How real is it? Because if I got a young quarterback and that's a guy that you no brainer to add if you think you got a young stud. If you're the Patriots.
Miami got bigger fish to fry.
Which are?
You got to figure out a quarterback spot.
Well, yeah, the quarterback doesn't bring anything to the table as far as playmaking ability. That's what I'm talking about, Dan.
Right. No.
Playmaking ability.
We're not going to turn this into a smear.
No, but that's not my overarching point. He's not a force multiplier at the quarterback position. That's number one. And number two, Miami is soft. They're a soft football team. Their style of play is not conducive to go winning any type of championship.
I will push back on that. I think defensively they absolutely play with an edge. I think offensively there's something to be said about their ability to run the ball. But Tua is a phenomenal player. When Tua's on the field, they're a top 5 offense.
Give me a big game that Tua's won.
But that's a little bit attached to. But that's a little bit attached to the style of offense with the run game, the physicality, and where it's been played. Okay, I will have the conversation that they got to get him healthy. He's got to stay healthy, or there's a reason to justify making sure you got a really good insurance plan. But he can play.
Well, the thing is, Tua certainly can play, but to just assume there's a magic thing that all of a sudden we're going to keep him healthy. This is the same guy that had 5 operations coming out in college.
I know.
And you're surprised.
I think that's where the Tyreek frustration is really coming from.
Yeah. But if you get hurt in college, you're going to get hurt in the pros.
The reality has been when Tua Tagovailoa has been healthy, they've been really good. Their backup situation has not always worked out so well, and they missed the playoffs this year. I've got another sound off here. The New York Jets in that game got their 5th win of the season. Aaron Rodgers became the 5th player ever to throw 500 touchdowns. He had 4 yesterday, 28 on the season, the 3rd most in the Jets single season history. And after the game, he addressed his uncertain future with the Jets.
Either way, I won't be upset or offended, whatever they decide to do, if they want to move on, if I still want to play. And if not, I'll let them know at some point if that's the case. There's a lot of hypotheticals here. So if I want to play, hypothetical number 1. If they want to move on, hypothetical number 2. Would I be willing to play for another team, hypothetical number 3? The answer is yes.
Oh, look who's here. While Aaron was talking, just to cheer me up, the big flag over the back. Sit down, big fella.
What's up, guys?
How are you?
That's the best hug in the world.
You're on a Monday.
Also, you hit him on my shoulder and it hurt me.
I will just state for the record, you smell great. But that's a whole other thing. Okay.
Thank
but
you.
Man, it's so good to see
that was
you.
Aaron Rodgers. That was Aaron Rodgers. And
Beard
look,
looks amazing.
Hold on. Let's live in this for a second here. All right. There are so many opinions on Aaron Rodgers, and all of them are valid. Okay. You can love him. You can hate him. The one thing no one will disagree with, he's one of the greatest players in the history of the National Football League. Marcus, I'll give you the first crack. Do you believe we saw his last NFL game yesterday?
I think we did for the Jets. I'm not sure. They believe that's not in Aaron Rodgers.
That's fair. But Dan, so what does he have left? He's going to be a 42-year-old man, 2 years removed from an Achilles injury, a very, very serious injury. There have been a few little ups and a lot of downs the last seasons that he has played. Is he someone's answer next year?
Oh, I think so. I think Aaron Rodgers is still capable of playing winning football. I would say over the last 8 weeks, he kind of has. Not maybe for all 8, but there's been a significant uptick in play. If you've watched Enigma at all, you think he still wants to play football. That's my takeaway as well. I think that there's teams that need quarterbacks for next year that aren't going to get that question answered. Top of my head, like what does New Orleans do? What does the Las Vegas Raiders do? Shoot, what does San Francisco do? They got to make a decision as well. And so there's a lot of teams out there that are sitting there with the Cleveland Browns. And so I would like to see him in a dome or a warm weather place just because the age and whatnot, but I still think he could play winning football.
Super quick. Aaron Rodgers, a starter in the NFL next year, yes or no?
Yes. I do, just not with the Jets.
I agree with that. Quick final word.
I mean, ditto. I think the same thing. I think he still has great ability to throw the football. I think he is a starter in the league next year.
I think the San Francisco one is really interesting. They've got That's going to be a really fascinating one to watch. All right, as you can see, the big Swagoo was here. We'll take a short break. He's here with us for the entire hour number 2 today, going through all that we have seen as we have now witnessed the end of the beginning. The Lions lock up the last lap. They roar into the playoffs as the NFC's number 1. Who's going to win the whole thing? We'll talk about it next. League debut Tuesday night on ESPN and ESPN Plus. You're going to see Xander Schauffele and Ricky Fowler leading New York against Ludwig Oberg and Wyndham Clark and the Bay. Coverage begins at 9 o'clock Eastern time. I know there's at least one person on our desk who will be watching that.
I'm fired up for that.
Rennie, you got to break this down for me. That looks intriguing. I need you to
It's
break
real.
it down.
Everything's real off the surface you're hitting. You're hitting off real grass, real sand, in essentially a warehouse. But
it's simulation.
Screen.
It's simulation.
Well, just like where your ball goes, and then when they'll place the ball in the green, and the greens are all able to be moved and change elevation and undulation and hills.
Absolutely. The breakdown I did.
You'll say. Marcus is here. We are back. We are live from the Seaport. We're brought to you by Grey Goose. We are jam-packed this morning. Let me start by recapping the 2 big breaking stories from Adam Schefter. Just in the last hour, Doug Peterson, no surprise here, fired by the Jaguars after 3 seasons, which means there are officially 5 head coaching openings as of right now. That after the Patriots had made the change with Gerard Mayo yesterday. A 6th will not come in New York with the
explosion, the burst, and obviously when he gets to the edge, send everybody ass home. Because ain't nobody catching him, and we know what's going to happen.
The other storyline in this game, Dan, was Minnesota's failure repeatedly in the red zone.
Yeah, Sam Darnold passes up Jordan Addison at the top of the screen there. That's one of the storylines is missed opportunities. Jefferson begging for a hug. I think it was just straps up by Detroit's defense.
That one was on a 4th down. This one's on a 3rd and goal.
And we saw a missed read one time, and then this is a missed throw. Everybody all-out pressure. You get the double move. Sam Darnold's hit that all season long. Misses it last night.
Lions 10-6 at the half. Early 3rd. 4th and goal. Again, they go for it.
And I would again say another missed opportunity. He had Addison one-step slant at the top of the screen, scrambles, and the plaster job when Sam Darnold left the pocket by Detroit secondary is flawless.
3 points on 12 goal-to-go attempts. Meanwhile, Detroit doing what they do. That's a 4th down conversion to Gibbs. That's one of 4 touchdowns that Jahmyr Gibbs would score on the night. He'd run for 3 and catch that one. Marcus, he took over this game.
Took over this game and this offensive line. This is identity football for Detroit, though. We know once they feel and smell blood, they are going to attack and needle you in exactly that same spot, and that's why we see Gibbs.
How you feel blood?
You feel it trickling down.
You're seeing it right there. The speed,
you look at
dynamics, 23 carries, 139 yards, and those 4 touchdowns for Jahmyr Gibbs as the Lions pull away in the second half and lock up the 1 seed in the NFC. Tough night for Sam Darnold last night. Lions get the win they desperately need, and so the road to the Super Bowl in the NFC will go through the Motor City. The field is now set. Here we go. Kansas City and Detroit are the 1 seeds. Saturday's games, Chargers, Texans, Ravens, Steelers. Then the Sunday, the triple header highlighted by Packers, Eagles. Our game Monday night on ESPN and ABC. Minnesota falling to 5. They will open at the Rams. There are 2 road favorites. The Chargers are favored on the road. The Vikings are favored on the road. Damian Woody, I come back to you as we sit back and analyze what we saw last night. What was the first thing you said to me coming out of Lions-Vikings?
If the Detroit Lions play like they did last night, particularly on defense, they're going to be in New Orleans representing the NFC in the Super Bowl. Aaron Glenn was in his bag last night, okay? Aaron Glenn was between the way he mixed up his coverages, the pressures, the way the defensive line got after Sam Darnold. Like, Sam Darnold was completely uncomfortable last night, and that was all due to the way what Aaron Glenn was doing defensively. And I think the biggest thing that I take away from it was in the red zone, the money zone is what we like to call it. 6 points on 4 drives in the red zone. That's championship football. When you can hold teams down in the red zone and prevent them from scoring touchdowns and kicking field goals or even just turning them away, that's how you find your way to New Orleans.
And that's not just any team, Rex. That's Darnold, who had been as hot as anyone, and it's Jefferson, and it's Addison. That is an outstanding offense. How did, and Aaron Glenn, for those, he's the defensive coordinator of Detroit. And by the way, Shefty is reporting he's expected to, the Jets, Bears, and Saints are all expected to request interviews with Aaron Glenn for their head coaching opening. What did they do last night that won this game?
They were so multiple, and just what you talked about, D. Wood, that, look, sometimes all-out pressure. Sometimes they're playing 2-man coverage or, mixed coverage. Sometimes they're playing zone. So to me, they changed the picture. And they were able to consistently get pressure on the quarterback, sometimes with 4, sometimes 5, sometimes 6. And it just sat back. Sam Darnold looked like, was he seeing ghosts again? I don't know. But he had no confidence. Mm-hmm. And that's what it was about. Make him, hesitate, before he throws. That's what Aaron Glenn did. Yep. So it was a multiple package, a professional game plan. It wasn't a, 2 coverage, 1 front type thing. And they played to win. That was the difference. We've seen the whole time up until this point, they always play to that offense. Let's just not mess it up. Yeah. Well, no, they played to win defensively as well as offensively.
Marcus, so I feel like we've spent on this show a lot of time the last 4, 5, 6 weeks talking about the Eagles and how they look like the best team, talking about the Vikings, how red hot they've gotten, all the rest of that. Right this minute, do you agree with D. Wood? Are the Lions your favorite to go to the Super Bowl from the NFC?
Philly.
Still Philly.
Still Philly, man. And I get it. I understand what we just watched with Detroit last night. And on that Detroit point, last night Aaron Glenn said, I'm going to make y'all show me who y'all think Sam Darnold is. That's all that game plan was about. And we going to make the quarterback beat us. We going to blitz his ass. We going to play man. Who in the world plays man-to-man on Justin Jefferson?
Yeah.
Last night they did, because you hear me say this all the time. You got to make a decision on defense. Are we going to cut the head off the snake, or are we going to try to play safe and then condense the field? Aaron Glenn said, I'm going to cut the head off the snake and see if he can execute. Bro, we just looked at red zone opportunities at 21 to 28 points for the Minnesota Vikings that they couldn't execute. I'm not sure if Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley and A.J. Brown not going to execute those. So I'm not ready to say Detroit is clearly the favorite yet. But what I will say is this. If they get into these situations where they play you late into a game, they will absolutely take over the game.
Yeah.
So you got to get going early.
Fella, this morning I said violence. Like Detroit chose violence and Minnesota didn't. And to your question, if there's one team that you need to play violently against, it's Philly.
Philly, man.
It's you. That offensive line without big, that's the athletic. You got to go and bring the fight to Philly, because I promise you, Philly's going to bring the fight to you. And so what I saw last night was a team that walked in there and said, you know, I played there when we were terrible. And we would do you got to lock the Lions den, and we stunk. This team's capable of doing it. You know? And they hit Sam Darnold 14 times last night. I don't care who you are. You hit a quarterback 14 times, you're going to bring him back down to earth. You mentioned some of those misses. Sam Darnold hasn't missed that all season long. I thought he missed 5 touchdowns last night. Look at this. So he's going to throw a post. This is one of those all-out zero blitzes. But look at the bottom of the screen, the corner. He's butt naked open. He throws that corner route, which is something I've seen him do a ton of times this year. That's a touchdown, but he launches the post. That's a missed opportunity. Down in the red zone, I want you guys to watch up top. There's that Addison one. That's a rub route versus man coverage. For some reason, his eyes get off it so quickly. And that's a throwaway. That's 2 touchdowns that are easily executed if you're not used to getting hit. There's going to be another opportunity down in the red zone. This is the double move versus zero pressure. Jefferson's going to win. Sam, if he just floats this ball to the pylon instead of kind of firming it, that's a touchdown. So I've got 2 missed kind of reads and a missed throw. Now watch the very top of the screen. Right now, there's another rub route versus man coverage. That safety's pinned in the middle. Sam Darnold doesn't throw it. And I do think that this is more attributed to him just getting hit so much that his eyes started to go all over the place and get sped up rather than playing in a calmer sense.
Yeah, they got him off his spot. And the big thing is when you hit the quarterback, the whole team feels it. And 14 hits on the quarterback. Come on now. He wasn't the only one flinching out there.
Their offensive line got whooped.
So are the coaches. And by the way, so was Brian Flores over there getting out-coached again by Ben Johnson. So the whole team flinched. And to me, that's what happens when you hit the quarterback.
And that's the thing, like for me, that's the thing that makes me think a little bit more encouraged about Detroit. And it does give me a little bit more reservation for Minnesota going to L.A.
You know what I saw in that watching all those highlights? I saw Detroit run the ball in the red zone. Minnesota, absolutely not. When you get down in condensed spaces, you got to be able to run the football.
But that's Minnesota's MO. They love to throw down there.
But also that's my point about Philly. You got to, first of all, you got a dual threat in the backfield. You got a receiver that if you play man-to-man, he going to win 3 or 4 of them. Right? And you just got to determine what those 3 or 4 are going to be. Are they going to be touchdowns or are they going to be just big plays? These 2 teams are on a collision course. Oh, yeah. And it's going to be fun to watch how this defense disbands themselves with Aaron Glenn against Philly.
Philly is only a 3.5-point favorite to open against Green Bay this weekend. We'll see just how hurt Jordan Love is. We do expect him to be able to play. Christian Watson looked badly hurt in the game for the Packers yesterday. At this moment, I do not think we expect him to play. Now, Sunday shout-outs. Let's run through all the things that we saw yesterday. Rex, get us started. Who are we shouting out with the Las Vegas Raiders?
Oh, Brock Bowers. Are you kidding me? This guy broke the all-time reception record for tight ends. And who the hell's quarterback? Daryl LaMonica? I don't know, but he had no quarterback play. And this guy, all he did is go in there and break the all-time record. And all those teams, outside of the ones that needed quarterbacks that passed on them, you look kind of foolish.
I'm the only one who got the LaMonica reference up here, but I liked it. Orlovsky, how about another rookie who deserves a shout-out?
Marcus, where are you from?
I'm from that booth.
Where's this kid from?
That booth?
Malik Neighbors.
Louisiana.
Playing with Daryl LaMonica at quarterback many times. He broke the Giants' single-season record for catches with 109. This is a young man that even missed a couple games. Coming out of the draft, it was like, get Malik Neighbors, because he's an absolute rocket ship. There's a lot of unknown with the New York Giants in the future. I promise you, I know this.
Yeah.
They got a superstar at wideout.
D-Wood, how about who gets your shout out?
Come on, Greeny. You already know where I'm going. I'm going with the big boy right here, Michael Beard. Listen, that boy about a biscuit away from 400 pounds right now. But let me tell you something. He wanted no parts of burning extra calories right there. But this seems to be the year of the thick boys, okay? The year of the thick boys. Hey, Mark, what you call it? What's your
Big man balling.
Big man balling.
Woody, it's
Big man
always
balling
our
been going
year.
on all year.
It's always our year,
It's
bro.
always.
It's always our year.
That was my favorite play of the season. Was that interception by Michael Pierce? Swagger, you got another one. You got another big one.
I'm going to another big fella. My man. Well, first we're gonna show Pierce again.
Yeah.
I thought he was gonna tear his ACL on that knee. I'm glad he's okay. Derek Barnett. We making plays all over the place. Scoop and score. We look athletic on this one. We wanted to get to the end zone, unlike Michael
Look how good he
Pierce.
look in his uniform.
Take the ball. Oh, we switched the ball, so it wouldn't have taken away.
Now we cross-covered.
Yeah. Let's go, man. Big fella's got to make plays. It's playoff time. Man.
Hey, I got to ask you, because we were doing the game, and what did you say when the Pierce stuff happened? Bro.
You know I can't say it on TV.
Bro.
I was just hyped. I was so hyped. You know what I was thinking?
He hit the Eli Manning.
Yeah, buddy. He took that knee, though. I was crying.
Double knee.
I was crying when he took that knee.
Man, the sideline to him was...
Yeah.
All right, coming up, look at the squad we have for this morning here. Coming up are Josh Allen and the Bills on upset alert against the Broncos. Someone here says Superman should be scared. You'll hear who and why. Plus, are the Steelers going to be one and done? Is this the year Lamar finally gets his ring? We will tell you why this year could be different. That's next. Get up on ESPN.
The bold Louisiana flavor and crispy crunch.
We continue on Get Up. Let's do some playoff first impressions. AFC games. Rex, Chargers 3-point favorites on the road in Houston. What's your first impression?
Yeah, Chargers basically, I never realized they get a bye. Oh, wait, they got to play the Texans. What's the difference? Texans offense is struggling so bad they can't protect the quarterback. And the Chargers' number one scoring defense in the NFL going against that offense. Woo! Get ready for the next round.
Again, the Chargers are a road favorite. Orlovsky, the Ravens will host the Steelers. Baltimore, a 9.5-point favorite. What's your first impression?
Yeah, they're going to take George Pickens out of the football game. And what you're going to hear during this broadcast is shell coverage, meaning they're going to kind of play with an umbrella over him. They're not going to give him a ton of one-on-one opportunities. When you do that against Russell Wilson in Pittsburgh, this offense struggles mightily. I think that defense and the way that they've played over the last 8 weeks makes this a clear Baltimore favorite.
Again, they're a 9.5-point favorite. The Bills are also a heavy favorite. 9 points at home against Denver. Swagoo, what's your first impression?
Hey, this one is sneaky, scary for me, especially when you talk about the Denver Broncos defense, G. The athleticism up front, the ability to track the quarterback. We know Josh is going to have to use his legs at some point in this game. Will he be able to dominate with some of those big plays and big runs? I'd be interested to see what Vance Joseph does against Josh Allen and how they deploy their secondary against the Buffalo Bills. Patrick Surtain is on this team. I'm sure he'll be around Amari Cooper somewhere, and they're going to make somebody else beat him.
D-Wood, you said the same thing. It is a tough matchup for Buffalo.
I said this is a bad draw for Buffalo. It's a bad draw. Like Denver with that defense, and not only with their secondary, but they got dudes up front that can get after the quarterback. Bunch of guys that can get after. That's going to be a problem for Buffalo. Okay? And then, they got, obviously Sean Payton, terrific head coach. Bo Nix, athletic quarterback that can move around and is accurate. Like, this is going to be a challenge for Buffalo, in my opinion.
What do you think, Greg?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think Superman better be Superman in this one. And by the way, What you got to feel good about if you're a Bills fan, you're undefeated at home this season, okay? And your quarterback has the best TD against interception ratio in the history of the playoffs.
History.
That's right, the history.
Yeah.
It's this kid, the guy that's getting ready to win the MVP. It's that guy. So he is Superman in the playoffs. He is Superman when he plays at home, and he better be or they're in trouble.
I completely agree. It's a tough matchup. I think Patrick Surtain and Benito are massive parts of this game for Denver's defense. We talked a little bit about how he plays that Darrelle Revis role, shut down one side of the field. It's Monday. I'm going to tell you how Buffalo wins this game, okay?
Yeah.
James Cook and Ray Davis, they're going to have probably 12 catches combined, 14 catches combined. Denver's defense is fantastic. Anybody that's gotten it after this defense, it's because their backs have been very prominent in the pass game. Something that Buffalo does phenomenally well is throw the ball to their backs. If you remember that Detroit game, that's the way Buffalo wins the game. Their running backs have to be great in the pass game, not just in the run game.
I'm not trying to diminish Denver. They've had a terrific season. Sean Payton's a great coach. Bo Nix has been a revelation. But yesterday they beat a Kansas City team that if they could have forfeited, would have. The 2 previous weeks they lost and gave up, I think, 68 points to the Chargers and the Bengals. So I'm having a hard time understanding why we don't think Josh Allen is going to be able to take care of business at home in this playoff.
Well, because, one, when you get to the playoffs, it's game plan specific. That's number one. The other thing is you're putting together a whole sample size of what these guys have done this year. This is why Rex know this. This is why Rex was a good coach. Rex in the playoffs kicked people ass because I got 17 games of a sample size. That does not mean Josh Allen is not going to have a day. No, I don't think anybody sitting at this desk don't believe Josh Allen is going to have a day. But the playoffs are a little bit different because you play these things by possession, and then you look at matchups from a personnel standpoint. And that's what Dan and Woody and Rex is alluding to. It's will Josh Allen legs carry the day? Because this secondary now is real back there for the Denver Broncos. And we know that they're going to have to do some of that. So I'm interested to see it. I think Josh Allen right now is in this. I think he's in this mode of it really don't matter who on the other side. I can do what I do. It's everybody else around him that I want.
So I think he's going to win the MVP. But let's talk about his biggest competitor. It's either going to be Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson. They both had ridiculously, historically great seasons. And the Ravens are a heavy favorite against the Steelers here. You were just with the Ravens this week. And a lot of people will look at Baltimore and say, well, they've gotten to the playoffs all these years. They keep failing in the biggest spots. What's the difference this time?
Derrick Henry. And they don't gotta get too cute. They don't gotta overthink things. They can literally, and they know this, they can line up and they can be predictable and they can go, stop it.
Yep.
Here comes our 5 offensive linemen. We're going to put Patrick Ricard on the field who's 300 pounds, and we're going to give the ball to Derrick Henry. And the way that the people in that building talk about how much he just changes their team. And the saying from Todd Monken was, running the football and keeping ourselves on track gates us the opportunity to do it again. It keeps Derrick Henry on the field. And so if they're capable of running the ball, having Derrick on the field completely changes everything. It changes the people that the defense has on the field. It changes the amount of people you got to have at the line of scrimmage. It changes how people react after the snap. Derrick Henry changes everything.
Rex, for those who are not with us on Sunday mornings, on Sunday NFL Countdown, who was your pick in the AFC?
Yeah, I mean, clearly it's the Baltimore Ravens. But I will say this. This is not the first time that Baltimore's had the best team in the AFC. All right? But it is the first time they've had Derrick Henry.
Correct.
And that's the thing. Look, this Todd Monken did a great job last year until it counted the most.
Right.
And all of a sudden they forgot the running.
And they got a little too cute in that moment. And I think they even say to it, like, yeah, we did. We overthought
it.
100%.
Yeah, but you're not going to get cute when you got a Hall of Fame running back in the backfield and Derrick Henry.
Yeah, especially
you don't forget about that.
And what did you say about his shadow?
I said that.
You said it, Green.
You can't miss him. Like the offensive coordinator, if he's not calling his name, if Derrick just stands close to him, he'll block out the sun.
Yeah.
Oh, what is
realize
this?
We got to give him
that's right. Give him the dang football, and that's it. Look, the only time that Baltimore has struggled this year, it's when they forget to give Derrick Henry the ball.
Do they blow out Pittsburgh? The Steelers always play them tough. The Steelers have generally had Lamar Jackson's number.
I don't think they blow. I don't know. I don't think they blow. They're going to beat them, but I don't think they blow them out.
They'll beat Pittsburgh. I think it'll be at least by 10, 14. Yeah, I think this team rolling. Look, we talk about Derrick Henry. The difference is the way this defense has been playing the last 3-4 weeks. Like the back end. Now, I'm going to tell you this. That damn Stevens scared the hell out of me on the back end.
Stevens,
yeah, he scares me. But the fact that Humphrey has stepped up and started looking like his old self again, I think it's going to go a long way with Kyle Hamilton bumping back.
Very quick final word, quick.
They got a guy who's the Defensive Player of the Year candidate, Kyle Hamilton. Humphrey in the slot, the way their defensive line's playing, they got one of the best defenses in football, and they got the second best run game in football.
The matchups are set. Meanwhile, Shefty is with us all morning long. Huge decisions on coaches have already been made. More could come literally any minute. Adam Schefter is the man you want to hear from, and you will. As we continue, we roll on with Get Up, and I'll remind you that the Ravens' Nate Wiggins hooked up America with 6 free wings. Go to Applebee's.com and see how you can pick 6, as in 6 free boneless wings today. Back in a flash on ESPN. What we've put together as the NFL season comes to an end. We've been talking a lot about the upcoming playoffs and the thrilling game last night, but of course, we also know that on this day, frequently we talk a lot about coaches losing their jobs, and we've had one this morning. Doug Peterson, this does not come as a surprise. Adam Schefter was live on with us earlier this morning, breaking the news that Doug Peterson has been fired in Jacksonville. Many people reacting to the fact that they will keep their general manager, Trent Baalke. That does not, at least if the initial reaction is any to be gauged, that's not necessarily been so popular. So Doug Peterson is out today. Meanwhile, this is the second firing we've seen since the season ended. Adam Schefter is ready to go with us again, working like crazy this morning. Schefter, we had the news yesterday coming out of New England.
Yeah, basically the New England Patriots. Are you asking about New England, Greeny? Is that what you're doing? You're asking about Doug Peterson.
Peterson, we just gave.
Where are we going here?
Well, because you've got 8 million things going on this morning. Doug Peterson, I just gave the news that you broke this morning. Doug Peterson out in Jacksonville. This after the news came yesterday, right after the game about New England.
Well, I think the news this morning here is what teams are not doing. The New York Giants are not firing their head coach, Brian Daboll, or their general manager, Joe Schoen. The Jacksonville Jaguars are not firing their general manager, Trent Baalke. There are teams that are not making moves. Now, we can get to the moves that have already transpired. The New England Patriots moving on from Gerard Mayo essentially is a situation where this took a dramatic turn here in the last 30 or so days, where initially this was a hand-picked head coach that was supposed to be groomed and given time, and that's not what wound up happening in the end. Robert Kraft felt like he had to make a change in the end and take the organization in a different direction. I think the last 30 days where there were public gaffes, poor play, anger and apathy amongst fans all contributed to the surprising decision to move on from Gerard Mayo after 1 year, which I think disappointed some of the former players like Teddy Bruschi. We've heard them talk about they didn't approve of this. I think there are people in the building who had different thoughts and wondered about the direction of the franchise and what was transpiring and the way the organization was playing. So that's all across the board. As for the Jacksonville Jaguars, this morning, Doug Peterson talked last week as to how this had been his most difficult and challenging NFL season, and he wouldn't have been surprised if yesterday was his last game, which it turned out to be. But in the end, ultimately, they made a decision that they felt like they had to do. What was interesting about the Jacksonville situation is that they're keeping Trent Baalke on as the general manager. And now they're saying the head coach will report directly to the owner, not Trent Baalke, but the new head coach, whoever it is, will be working with Trent Baalke. And that obviously has met with some mixed reaction across the league.
Yes, and if by mixed you mean generally speaking, all the fans are enraged about it, then I agree with you completely. Shefty, stay close by. I need you for a million things here. Let me come to this group, because here's the thought that just enters my mind. Doug Peterson went there because his job was to develop Trevor Lawrence. They obviously had a moment there, right? I mean, they went to the playoffs. They won that crazy come-from-behind game. It has tailed off since then. You've got Trevor Lawrence available right now. You've got Caleb Williams available right now. You've got Drake May available right now. So if you're one of these hotshot coaches who are going to get a lot of different interest right now, and I'm just saying you can coach one of those 3 quarterbacks, and because that's going to be the guy that's going to lead you to the Super Bowl. Which one you want?
I would choose Drake May. I would think what I've seen from Drake May this year is nothing but encouragement, given terrible offensive line play and very little weapon. I think the potential for Drake May has the opportunity to be a Josh Allen type of player.
They also have, for the record, $130 million in cap space and the 4th pick in the draft. So the Patriots have other reasons.
And I would say, Greeny, real quickly, I would go Drake, and then I would probably choose Caleb as a close 2 to that.
Ahead of Trevor.
Yeah.
And Trevor Lawrence, who was supposed to be the generational talent. He was supposed to be the next John Elway, Andrew Luck.
He's not that. We got to stop.
And he's never going to be?
I'm not sure if he's never going to be, but he's not that right now. And to Dan's point, we got to have a different conversation about Trevor Lawrence until he does something different. Like, I get it. Doug Peterson getting fired. The Urban Meyer was a disaster when he was there. But Trevor Lawrence got to have a mirror time this offseason and figure out, like, if he's going to ascend to be one of these guys that we talked about. Dan talked about it coming out the draft. Every intangible you ever want in a quarterback is in Trevor Lawrence. He's really good and really high when he's playing well. But inconsistency at that position with sitting with this dude for the last 6 years, get a lot of coaches fired and a lot of losses.
Drake May or Caleb?
I would go Caleb. I still think Caleb got some talent that's uncoachable, and if you get him around the right person, it could be unlocked.
Yeah, I just want to say something about Trevor Lawrence, all right? They said the same thing about Jared Goff, and when he got in the right situation, now he's an MVP candidate. This guy, you can't argue the tool set that this young man has. And here's the other thing. Head coach, you mentioned he was brought in to build this head coach or the quarterback and all that. No, a head coach is brought in to lead the franchise.
Right.
All right. And handle the locker room and get them to play with a certain type of passion. That's what a head coach's job is. All right. Everybody's going to look at this guy right here as he's got an unbelievable amount of tool set. Like Trevor Lawrence should be a superstar. You're right. He would have been the first guy taken
in any draft.
Every one, 3 straight years. Yeah. So I'm not ready to give up on him.
Right now, those 3 guys, before I go back to Shefty, those 3 guys, Drake May, Caleb Williams, Trevor Lawrence, I'm giving you the chance to coach any of the 3 and carry you to a Super Bowl. Which one you want?
Drake May. Drake May for me. I just think that Drake May has, he's big, athletic, and I just look at how he handled this year.
Yeah.
I mean, think about what he was playing.
His character.
Bro, that offensive line was atrocious. He was getting just beat up, bruised, battered, all of that. Weapons, basically no weapons out there. And you could see through his play, he got better and better and better. And you saw the athletic profile just every game. You saw something special.
Both of them still have, both of them, both Drake and Caleb still have a great
But you know what? But here's for me, the reason I picked Drake May, when I watch Caleb, it's his demeanor on the sideline that bothers me. Like, when things go bad, it's just all, like, when you're talking about a quarterback who's going to be a CEO, like, that body language matters to me. Body language matters. And I see that with Caleb now. Like, he needs to get that out of his game.
I've had moments with feeling the same ways this year. But also, watching him and really he competes his freaking rear end off,
I was just about to say it, bro. There was not a game this year, whether it was going good or bad, that I didn't feel like he was fighting like hell.
So maybe he wears it on the sleeve a little too much.
So. And I get it. I understand what you're saying, but sometimes that demeanor is a part of what makes you the player you are.
It may also come from realizing how bad the coaching is that you're dealing with, and how bad the situation you're in, and how bad the organization is at putting the right pieces around you.
Hit with a baseball bat, you're going to slump over.
Let me go back to Shefty here, because Shefty, you started this conversation by saying one of the big storylines today, Shefty, is the moves that were not made. We saw Shane Steichen is being retained. Mike McDaniel is being retained.
Hold on.
Go.
Hold on.
Nothing is better. Leave the box up. Leave the box up.
I could tell the way he was fidgeting something going on.
When he gets like that.
I could tell the way.
There's nothing better than that. When he comes back, we'll get back to it.
Leave the box up.
Leave the box up, but leave the sound off. But he's coming back here. So what he told us earlier here is that Joe Shane, the general manager, and Brian Daboll, the head coach of the Giants, are coming back.
And said I got it.
Let me tell you, I live here in New York. I walk these streets. The Giant fans are going to be incredibly upset about this. Part of it is because the team looked like it gave up during the course of the season. Let's face it. They looked like they gave up. And I think part of the reason is how badly the leadership miscalculated the way they handled the Saquon Barkley situation and then the Daniel Jones situation?
Yeah, no, 100%. It wasn't just the one isolated situation, but the way they just dismissed Daniel Jones with 6 games left. What a horrible message you sent. I am shocked by that one. And if I'm a Giant fan, I am absolutely upset. Because, look, somebody needs to be held accountable for it. Because that was one of the worst decisions ever in the National Football League. Saquon Barkley, by the way, that 2000, you're lucky he never played because he would have hung 200 more up on you.
And we saw the owner, all of us saw John Mara saying on TV, I'm going to have a tough time sleeping at night if Saquon goes to the Eagles. And he goes to the Eagles, and he was a legit character, or a legit candidate in the MVP conversation right to the end. I'm being told Shefty has more news. All right, Shefty is off the phone. Shefty, you have more for us. Go.
Well, the Cincinnati Bengals just fired their defensive coordinator, Lou Anarumo, who has done a tremendous job there through the years and been a head coaching candidate. And it just shows you how these head coaching cycles move and work, because in prior years, he was a finalist for a head coaching job. And then this season, now the Bengals fire their defensive coordinator, Lou Anarumo. And again, teams are going through their changes, and we have been focusing in on the big names, but there are some very significant people losing jobs today, like Lou Anarumo, who's done a great job in Cincinnati, who I would imagine will wind up getting a defensive coordinator job somewhere else, just not in Cincinnati. The Bengals obviously are going to be making changes, and that is the first notable change that the Bengals are.
Is fickle, because we're getting head coaches retained that the results aren't good. And my gut is that they didn't want to move on for Lou Anarumo because he's a good coach. But because of the offensive performance and not getting in it was like you had to.
In contrast to the defense.
I mean, you talk about an organization that wasted an all-time season from Joe Burrow.
Oh, of course, yeah.
And all of that is because of the defensive side of the football.
They are literally the only team in NFL history to have the league's leading passer, the league's leading receiver, and the league's leading sacker. That no other team ever had that. They had all three of that, and they didn't. No, for the season.
Yeah.
And they didn't make the playoffs. Joe Burrow led the league in passing. Jamar Chase led the league in receiving. And Trey Hendrickson led the league in sacks. Shefty, stay close by. If anything else comes up, are you telling me to go to him? Oh, no. We'll go back to Shefty as soon as there is more news. In the meantime, will it be go, Pack, go, or fly, Eagles, fly? Can the Pack pull off the upset in Philly? It is a wild card matchup to watch, and it is the matchup to watch here every Monday. Sneaky Hembo versus Rex. This is right up your alley.
Old school.
Rex, this is right up your alley from a time standpoint. Bart Starr went 9-1 in his playoff career. Who was the only quarterback ever to beat him? Rex will be the only person who knows this. The answer is next.
My God.
Liberty. We're back in the 60s now.
Jerry Bradshaw.
To be clear, the 1960s for Rex is a pretty recent reference, okay?
Yes.
Rex is so far in the past. I think the latest he could possibly die is 1974. Here we go. Bart Starr went 9-1 in his playoff career. Who's the only quarterback that beat him?
Well, the funny thing, the first thing, by the way, this is not my final answer. Because I was thinking, 50s. And no, it is the 60s, Brady. So your autogram's out. And then the 60s, this is not my final answer. Since everybody goes, 60s, nobody was better than Johnny Unitas, right? How about Norm Van Brocklin?
Norm Van Brocklin is correct.
Oh!
It's Norm Van Brocklin.
What? What? Did I
don't mean to be disrespectful. Norm Van Brocklin.
I owe you, my friend. Norm Van Brocklin. What? Norm Van Brocklin. Do you see the Eagle outfit? Do you see?
It was.
Look, that's with Norm Van Brocklin right here.
You got. Hold on, go back there.
It was the 1960 NFL Championship. Yeah, that's actually Rex's.
What's the big takeaway?
The Eagles, right?
Yeah.
What's the big takeaway? You got the same hair as
Same hairdo. I had the same gun as Norm Van Brocklin.
That looks like Rex's high school yearbook photo. Anyway,
white people's hair has not.
It was the 1960 NFL Championship game. It was Bart Starr's first career playoff start. He never lost another one. Okay, let's go to this year's playoffs. We got NFC wildcard games. Vikings-Rams is a rematch of a game that was played in Week 8. Minnesota's a 2.5-point road favorite. First impression.
This defensive line for Minnesota is going to have to get after Matthew Stafford. If they're able to control the game offensively, this would be a problem for Minnesota. I want to see Minnesota's offensive front also show better against a defensive line in the Rams that is dynamic. But if this pass game with Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua gets going, this is going to be a big-time issue for a defense that has had some gashes over the last month of the NFL season.
That's our game coming up on Monday night. D. Wood, Commanders-Bucks is a rematch going back to week 1. Tampa's a 3.5-point home favorite. First impression.
Jay Daniel precision. I think this dude is going to be surgical against this Bucks defense. We know that any Tarbo's defense is going to bring pressure. That dude, Jay Daniels right there, that dude eats pressure for lunch. He's going to go out there and make things happen against that Bucks defense.
And then we also have, Swagoo, another week 1 rematch. Packers and Eagles, they played on that Friday night in Brazil. Now they'll play in Philadelphia this weekend. What's your first impression?
Jalen Hurts, man. Look, this is the time in the playoffs. He understands what's around him. I know he's been out with the concussion. He comes back with fresh legs. And I'm going to tell you right now, early in that game before he got hurt, I saw a little bit more usage of his legs. And it was giving people a lot of complications. I expect that to come out against the Green Bay Packers. Jalen Hurts coming back with him and Saquon Barkley in the backfield will remind you of 3 years ago when Philly was making that run to the Super Bowl out of the backfield.
Rex, you don't feel good about Green Bay at all, do you?
Not in this one. I think Philly resting their players. They're going to be fresh. And, oh, by the way, when they made that Super Bowl run, they had an outstanding defense. Vic Fangio has put in place an outstanding defense right there. I don't like it. Now you got Jordan Love with a little bit of a elbow. You lose your speed receiver. I think it's a bad matchup.
Christian Watson went down yesterday. It did not look good. We don't have official word that he's out, but it certainly doesn't look good. And Love got a little bit banged up. You give the Packers a puncher's chance here?
A puncher's chance, yes, because Matt LaFleur's too good of a coach, and they can run the football. But the Watson injury for me is everything. To beat Philly, you got to be explosive on offense, and you got to be able to push the ball downfield. When he's on the field, they can create 20-yard plays. When he's off the field, they can't. It's that simply put. I still think that they can compete and give themselves a chance, but I would have felt way more confident about them being able to do it with Watson on the field than with him gone. It's totally different.
I think the only shot they got is to give it to Josh Jacobs about 30 times. Yeah. Keep the other.
But they can do that. They can run the rock well. That's the strength of their offense.
On Sundays, we call it a dehydrate him game, right? You're going to dehydrate Josh Jacobs to give him the ball. I'm not going to ask D. Wood right now who's going to win that game. I'm going to ask for the helmets to be brought in. Come on, Brandon, bring them over here. D. Wood is going to make some picks as only he can. We need protective eyewear for everybody. Here you go. Take your
let
eyewear.
Marcus pick one just to see the contrast.
Whichever one you want.
Get yours.
You get that one. Whichever one you like.
Yeah, go ahead.
Here we go. So D. Wood's going to pick 3 of these games, and then we'll have time to talk about it. Once again, that game opened at 3.5. Philly minus 3.5. It's been bet all the way up to 5.5. So we're starting on this game here. Eagles and Packers. He would smash the loser.
That's what we're going to start it off with right there.
That's a lot more physical than I thought.
We just getting started. We just getting started, Swagger. Just getting started, baby.
So you think that it's an easy win or not an easy win?
No, listen, I think Philly's going to roll, to be honest with you. Out there at home, in that environment, they're healthy, they're rested. Jalen Hurts is going to come out and it's going to show the world, like, yeah, we here.
Green Bay has played every good team in the NFC tough and lost all of those games. They've lost twice to Detroit. They've lost twice to Minnesota. And if they lose this, they would have lost twice to the Eagles as well. Okay, another NFC matchup here. We got Washington. We got Tampa. The Bucs are 3.5-point favorites. Let me see it, D. Wood. Smash the loser. Oh, my God.
That's a surprise.
I have no idea.
In the ribs.
Sammy, you took that one.
Yeah. That's what's left of Baker.
I see a lot of Commanders on our screen. Rex, you're the only guy who believes in Baker Mayfield
I
this
believe
weekend.
in Baker Mayfield. He's hot. I think they can get it done.
What's he called? You got to ask Marcus what he calls him.
What do you call Baker?
Mixtape Bake.
Mixtape Bake?
Yeah, I think when Bake in the booth by himself with just his producer making music, he the best. When he try to go commercial, he look like poop. Mixtape Bake.
Oh, there you go.
We got one more here.
He said he looked like poo.
We got the Bills and the Broncos. The Bills are a 9-point home favorite. Josh Allen, will he be able to make this run starting here?
You missed this.
Smash the loser.
Don't miss.
Boy, that was close to
Oh,
him.
yeah. I'll look like.
I'm okay.
Okay, all right.
I'm okay.
All right.
We're
That
right
thing
across
come
the board.
unglued. Yeah.
So I feel like I've sat here this morning and heard you guys talking a lot about how difficult you think this game is going to be for Josh Allen, but I don't see anybody with the Broncos helmet under their name. Tell me how this game goes, Marcus.
I think it'll be a close game for a long time in this game, and then 17 will put his cape on. It's that simple.
I agree. I really believe that Buffalo with James Cook and Ray Davis and Ty Johnson as pass catchers, that'll be the difference.
Yeah, I just think Superman's going to put his cape on. I think he's going to have to. Josh Allen will find enough ways. I do agree. I think it will be a close game.
17.
17.
17.
Oh, Josh Allen. Not that they're going to win by 17.
Yeah, 17.
Sorry, for one brief moment, I thought you were describing a blowout. Okay, does anyone here disagree? Does anyone care to do a smash?
I want to see you do a smash.
I want to smash because Wood left these helmets up here a little bit too intact.
Let me see it. We got another one.
A long way.
We got another one.
Go ahead, keep hitting him. We got a minute. Go ahead.
That's how you smash it downhill.
I don't think the table is going to survive the experience.
It's so fun.
First take is coming up next. Half these guys are heading across the hall.
Hempel looks like Sam Darnold.
In the NFC, Molly, Stephen A. Shannon, Danny Swagoo, and many more debating top of the hour right here on ESPN. We'll be right back.
Singles for $5 or 2 doubles for $7.